Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to quickly blast through all the things you need to kind of get more productive in HTML and help you guys get up and running and just kind of help you guys know a little bit more about your editor. You need to know your editor pretty well, right? So go ahead and watch some videos on Visual Studio Code, get to know your editor, and I think one of the best ways to learn it as well is to just take some time and like hover over the buttons, click it, see what it does, and just mess around with the editor. This is one of the more least intimidating ones, but when you start getting to programming like Java, C Sharp, it's going to get more crazy. So you kind of want to get familiar with this one, and then this is going to help you ease into the other ones. So as you can see, we got some HTML here. I'm just going to blast through the interface real quick. This is going to show you what file you're in, what folder you're in, and the editor. This here is a button to show you, or actually I'll start up here. This is the minimize, maximize, X off. This is your help. You can actually learn a lot about Visual Studio Code if you go to Interactive Playground, Documentation, and introductory videos, tips and tricks, so on and so forth. If you click here, it'll pop up a window and it'll actually show you all the keyboard shortcuts. So you can actually print this out and be Gucci, right? uh, and then you can also get the keyboard shortcuts if you click File, Preferences, Keyboard Shortcuts, right? So you can do a lot with keyboard shortcuts. I would say learn your keyboard shortcuts real quick. Some keyboard shortcuts you're going to have to know is you're going to need to know copy, cut, and paste. The way you do that is you highlight a piece of text and you hit Control C to copy it, and then you can paste it somewhere with Control V and you're good. You can also cut something with Control X and then paste it somewhere with Control V. So learn those three shortcuts. They're very essential. You're going to use them every day. But another thing you're going to use is select. So if you want to select to the beginning of the line, you hold shift and you go home, and then you'll go to the beginning of the line. Or if you want to go to the end, you go to the beginning of the line, and you want to go to the end, you hold shift and you click end, and it'll go to the end. And then you can go ahead and cut, you can go ahead and paste and stuff like that. Learn those as well. That's very helpful. And I believe you can also select using hold shift using the arrows. So mess around with those, get familiar with those. You might have to set this up by going file, but actually, yeah, you might have to set this up. It wasn't set up on my computer, so you might have to set this up by going to File, Preferences, Keyboard Shortcut, Duplicate, and then hit the pencil, do Alt D for duplicate, hit enter, and then it'll be set up. But what I'm saying is that you can duplicate the line by hitting Alt D, and it'll actually duplicate it as many times as you want, which is very useful. But every keyboard shortcut you need is also going to be up here next to what it does. So just go ahead and read that and you'll be good to go. Go ahead and try that out and just mess around with those. All right, see what they do, get familiar with them, and then start making a habit of using them, and it'll speed up your development. You're also going to use something called a finder. This is going to help you find text in the editor, and it has a bunch of functionality here, right? You can match the whole word by using this button. You can match if it's case sensitive or not, if you want it to care about uppercase, lowercase. You can find instances of it by cycling through them, and you can also replace the word, right? If you replace it, it'll replace it. If you don't want it to care about uppercase, then you click that and it'll replace it, but it'll keep the old case. Okay? So that's just a little bit about the finder. You also have the finder here. It's pretty much the same thing. Explaining this bar, this is the Explorer. This is very useful. You want to pretty much, you're going to be using this all the time. This shows you your folder, plain and simple. This shows you the folder that you're in. This shows you the current file that you're using. Sometimes you might not have a folder loaded, but you have a file loaded. If you have a file loaded, that means when you X the file off, everything's gone, right? So you want to open a folder and then open a file inside of the folder. This just shows you your current file. You can add a new current file, but it's pretty much useless. If you want to make a new file, I would go to the folder, hit new file, name the file, and then add the extension that you want at the end. If you want HTML, you type HTML. If you want CSS, you type CSS. That way you have control over what you name your file and the extension. With this, it's a little more weird, so I wouldn't even mess with it, really. This does some weird thing with vertical horizontal. I don't even know what that is. This helps you save all files, and this also helps you close all editors. So it'll actually close all those out for me. If I open a bunch of subfolders, this will collapse it. This will help me make a new file. This will add a new file, and then this will reload it in case I add something new and it didn't load it. Over here, you have breadcrumbs, so it actually will highlight different elements. Wherever you go in the file, it'll actually show you it in the top here. So then it can highlight stuff for you and stuff like that. You can also see the HTML structure by using this menu. You can drag it, make it bigger or smaller by holding onto the edge with the double arrow. And then you can collapse these as well. You can also change the view of what you see here by clicking these three dots at the top and then unchecking things you don't need. The timeline just show you get stuff, show you the get history. You can also collapse stuff in your HTML by clicking this button. And I would actually recommend this. This is called folding. This will actually show you a little bit easier view of what's going on without getting into the details. So a little bit of abstraction. Another way of getting it is to use Control P. That will show you all the recently open files you have, and you can kind of cycle through those as well. But if you do Control Shift P, this will actually open a menu that will allow you to do a bunch of functions. Just think of this as the functionality menu. And if I type in fold, I can actually fold all these. And now I have all my HTML folded and it's abstracted from the details, right? But remember that Control Shift P, you're going to have a lot of stuff here. By knowing Control Shift P, I can also change my formatting by saying format document, and it'll format it for me. Talking about format document, you have the document type here. If you change your document type, it will try to read the file as whatever you changed it to. It's trying to read it as CSS now. Just so whatever file you have, just make sure it's correct and not trying to read something else. This is UTF-8 encoding. This just talks about how it's turning numbers into text so that you can read it. This is spacing. You have two types of indenting, space, tabs. Whenever you have two spaces, it's going to look like this. Whenever you have four spaces, let me see if I can change it here. Here we go. It's going to look something different, right? Let me see if I can format the document to get four spaces. I think it's using two spaces still. But you could use either one, space or tabs. It doesn't really matter. You can also convert the spaces into tabs and so on and so forth. This shows you your line number and the column. You can also type in the line number here and it'll go to it. Line numbers are very important in code. A code can have 200, 500, 1,000 lines of code. So use those line numbers. Sometimes people will say, hey, go to this file in line 300, and then you just go to it. You also have a mini map to kind of give you a general idea of where you are in the file. All right, this video is approaching 9 minutes. Let me kind of hurry up. You have your search here, your GitHub source control here, help you fix errors here. Don't know what this is here. And then you have plugins or extensions. This gave your text editor more power, more functionality. You're gonna need live server so you can preview your HTML in a window, a browser window. You're gonna need auto rename tag. What this does, it helps you rename your HTML tags. So if I come here and want this to be an OL, I just type OL and it'll rename both the beginning and the ending tag. I also have auto close tag, which means when I come here and I type some HTML, whenever I type H1 and I hit enter, it'll auto complete that for me. But if I manually type it, it'll also complete it for me. All right. So that's what that does. So get those. Those are very nice and time savers. Whenever you're writing HTML, make sure your file is indented and it's not sloppy. Whenever it's sloppy, it's going to be hard to read. And it's going to look something like this. You know, it's not going to match the flow of the document. So you want to make sure everything's clean, everything's flowing, because it makes it more readable. And it also helps with the whole folding stuff, right? It also shows hierarchy and importance. So just make sure you're indenting your stuff correct. You can make an account, and whenever you go on another computer, you can sync those changes. This is settings. You can change your theme here, right? You can also change your file icon themes, change your icons. You can go into settings, and key maps will also, what are key maps actually? I think I know what key maps are. It shows you like the, nah, I actually don't know what key maps are. Don't worry about that. Oh, key maps. Yeah, it will actually take key shortcuts from like another program and you can use it. Yeah, so I think that's all that I wanted to show you. Down here, this just shows you how much errors and problems you have in your code. This shows you how much changes you need to put up to GitHub and how much changes you need to pull down from GitHub or bring down to your code from GitHub. This just shows you what the GitHub branch is. And I think I've covered everything, so I don't want this video to be too long, so hopefully that was helpful to you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.